Hello once again, everybody. Hope you all had a good Thanksgiving. JT with Mike Martz here, talking football. Hope, Mike, you had a big crowd in there for Thanksgiving. How did that go?
We had them all. We had all the grandkids, the kids. Yeah, it was great. They're in for 7 days, so we had a raucous house.
Yeah, Mike, you sent me fitting a photo of your Thanksgiving plate, and as advertised, I wish Joe Roderick, our crack producer, I wish I would have sent it to you, Joe. You could show it to those who are watching us on YouTube. It was just as advertised. Tons of turkey, tons of mashed potatoes, tons of gravy, just the basics, right?
The basic 3 food groups on Thanksgiving. Yes, stuffing, turkey, and mashed potatoes.
That's right.
And
I forgot the stuffing. Yeah.
You pour gravy over the top. That's the only way to go.
Yeah. Mike and I are never at a loss for words. There's always stuff to talk about. But what a week 13. There were so many crazy games. Mike, 12 games, 12 out of the 16. It was a full slate, no buys, were one possession games. That tied a record in the NFL. Fine line in this league between winning and losing. You were, I once, a couple of weeks ago, I looked up your record as a head coach in one possession games, and you were like, I think it was like 14 games, 17 games, something like that, over 500. So fine line in this league between winning and losing, isn't it?
It is. I think when you get to that point in the fourth quarter where the game's in the balance, and you tell your players this, if we just get this team into the fourth quarter, if it's a really good team, we'll win this thing. And you win it by not changing what you normally do. Whatever got you into that position, you just got to continue to do it. So many guys don't do that. They panic and do different things.
Yeah, be true to yourself. Well, let's go back to, we had a triple header on Thanksgiving. The most interesting game was the Lions and the Bears. I'm chuckling because poor Matt Eberflus ended up worse for the wear on this. The Lions had 16-0, 23-7 leads, and they almost blew it. Caleb Williams played great. He's really, I think, Mike, been revived since Thomas Brown took over as the interim offensive coordinator. And he had 256 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, 2 to Keenan Allen. But the Bears were in position to tie the game, and Caleb Williams threw that incompletion as time expired. They had half a minute on the clock and a timeout, and they didn't have enough time to get into that field goal. Mike, how did you see that? What do you think broke down there?
Well, 2 things. I think that the head coach was not connected with the coordinator and obviously the player. He's on defense, and the coordinator should have, if the head coach didn't do it, he should have stepped in and made a difference with the timeout or that on that coach to quarterback thing. You can tell him exactly what he needs to do. Why it took him 30 seconds to call that last play. I can see him not taking the timeout if he felt like he could get a quick throw out and stop the clock or whatever. But it took him 30 seconds to make that call.
Yeah.
When he started the call. And that was a long time before he even started to make the call, So
yeah,
I don't know. It is his fault. And I understand him getting fired, but there are a couple things you can do there. There's enough time where you didn't have to use the timeout if you had a play. But I don't think he got that play from the coordinator right away. So I think that coordinator is obviously to blame for some of that because it took so long for him to get it.
Yeah, and that would be, again, Thomas Brown, who is now, he's gone from interim offensive coordinator. Now he's interim head coach. And
well, that's what you do when you screw it up. You bump them upstairs.
You get a pat on the back and promoted. Very out of character too, Mike, for the Bears. This is the first, and the Bears have been around forever. First time ever they fired a head coach mid-season or in season. So,
well, I think I really screwed it bad for them to do that, and he did. This wasn't the first time. His judgment. They had a game one here not too long ago. They're on the 1-yard line. They stuck a lineman who's never carried the ball, and they're trying to hand him the ball to win the game. Of course, he fumbles, and they lose the game. I mean, what are you thinking?
Yeah. You can't get too fancy. Another Thanksgiving game, One that you and Mike Claiborne, it was great to see Mike Claiborne join us last week. The Packers and the Dolphins, this was a late game. The Packers coasted 30-17. 2 touchdown passes for Jordan Love, both to Jaden Reed. The Packers jumped to a 24-3 lead and just kind of coasted. Tua had a pretty good game, 365 yards and 2 touchdowns. He was sacked 5 times, but we were all over the weather. And the Dolphins now, they've lost their last 12 games, Mike, when the temperature at kickoff is below 40 degrees, which to me seems like perfect football weather. It doesn't seem that cool.
I think if the weather's below 30 for them anywhere north, they'll just unpack the plane and stay home and call it in. Yeah. All right, write down whatever you need. We'll give you a mulligan here. You can have it.
Yeah. No way to prepare for that. Maybe they could practice indoors and turn the air conditioning.
No, I mean, it's just, we could go up there from LA and I don't, it's just a mindset. Just is. First of all, any of those situations as a head coach, people always say, well, you have to dress that with your team. No, you don't. I never talked about it.
Yeah.
We go up there and play Green Bay, and they said, well, are you going to practice outside? I said, where does Green Bay practice? Well, they practice in the dome. Well, why would we? I mean, they're saying, it's a mindset. Now, if Green Bay was practicing out in that weather and all that, that's different, but they don't. They're like everybody else. They don't be miserable.
Yeah. So, going to be tough on the Dolphins now. They're kind of on the outside looking in. They showed some life. They'd won their previous couple of games. Okay, we had a Black Friday game, Chiefs and the Raiders. The Chiefs won 19-17. Again, kind of strange circumstances at the end. The Raiders are in position for a game-tying field goal with 15 seconds left. They have a rookie center. He snaps the ball before the quarterback's ready. Doink off his chest. There's a flag on the play. And for a while, we think it's a false start. And so the play's dead and they'll get to kick it. But no, they make it an illegal shift. So the play stood. And by the play standing, I mean the Mizzou, ex-Mizzou linebacker, Nick Bolton, recovered that fumble. And so the game's over. The Chiefs are good. They deserve everything they get, Mike. But, man, have they been living a charmed life this year, huh?
That'll end, yeah. And I don't think the Raiders are very good. And, I mean, they keep getting these games like this. I just don't think it's going to last much longer.
Yeah. They've won 14 straight one-possession games, which is an NFL record. But that was a crazy game. Aiden O'Connell looked pretty good in that game, the Raiders quarterback, huh? 340 yards passing.
He looked really good. Sometimes and this gets kind of tired, I guess, but when you get quarterbacks that have had their opportunity and they blow it, and yet they're good enough, and they come back, there's a maturity, and Kurt went through that a little bit. You remember when he's up at Packers and couldn't call play in the huddle, and he blew his opportunity but made full use of it when he got it again. I think that's fairly common. Sam Howard up at Minnesota, same thing,
Right.
You get that chance, and you can see Bryce Young over there. He blew it bad. They benched him for a while. He came back. He's a different guy. It happens.
Yeah. Speaking of Sam Darnold, the Vikings, this was an early game Sunday. They were down 19-6. This is one of the most potent offenses in the league. They had only 87 yards of offense late in the third quarter, and Darnold was struggling, but he persevered. He got them going, and they wipe out that 19-6 lead and end up winning 23-22. A weird thing about this game, Mike, is we've talked a lot about the running backs carousel and how a lot of these running backs that have changed teams have done great things. Now, Josh Jacobs gets lost in the shuffle to Barkley and King Derrick Henry, but he was the third leading rusher, entered this game. He fumbles twice in the first quarter. They recover one, they lose one, but I think it was a missed field goal by the Cardinals. So the fumbles, except for field position, they didn't cost them anything, but the coach, he hardly gives the ball. O'Donnell hardly gives the ball to Jacobs the rest of the game. He's benched for a while. Would you do that to your feature back? It was just weird because I think the Vikings defense really revolves around having that running game going, and they just didn't have a running game without him.
Yeah, y'all do it differently. Sometimes guys like to sit them down, let them rest for a minute, let them, cool off a little bit because they get upset over the fumble more than really you do.
Yeah,
Happened to Marshall in Detroit on Monday night, and then at home, I can't remember who, because Marshall never fumbled, and he got put back in the game right away. That's the way I've always looked at it, but I know most guys would say cool him down a little bit before you put him back in.
Yeah. Well, as it turned out, it took a long while. He put him back in, and he caught that with a minute 13 left. He caught the game-winning touchdown pass, so he helped save their bacon. A weird stat, and I know they don't play Minnesota every year. Arizona has not won in Minneapolis since they left St. Louis, and that was after the 1987 season. So they've had trouble up there. Okay, Eagles and Ravens, one of the marquee games of the weekend. The Eagles eked out a 24-19 victory, but it really wasn't as close as that final score. Kind of billed as the battle of the backs. Barkley had the slight edge there. He had 107 yards and a touchdown. Henry had 82 yards, no touchdowns. I'm starting to wonder, we talked about this yesterday, I'm starting to wonder a little bit about Lamar Jackson in big games. Now, he wasn't terrible. I mean, you could even say he was good, but again, the Ravens continue to kind of confound me, maybe a lot of others. They look like world beaters, and then some of these big games, they don't come through. They're 8-5 now.
All year long, we've talked about this, particularly earlier in the season. They had some stinkers in there against teams that they should dominate, and then they'll lose a close game to a team they should win. And I just think that Philadelphia right now is on the rise. They're playing so good on both sides of the ball. The quarterback is very consistent, and obviously the running back is in the talk for MVP. So they've got it going on, and they're not blinking. They're not, they're steady. They're not making some of the mistakes, and I don't know. They've changed coordinators a number of times down in Baltimore, and they just don't have the firepower on offense, it seems to me. Defensively, they show up and sometimes they disappear. So really inconsistent play out of that football team, which is for a Harbaugh coach team is unheard of.
Yeah. And, Justin Tucker has been a fixture as a place kicker for 13 years, and he misses 2 field goals, and this isn't a 5-point loss. He misses 2 field goals and clangs a PAT off the upright. He had entered the season as the most accurate field goal kicker in NFL history. So that's tough. He struggled this year now, Mike. I don't know what you do as a coach. You got to stick with him, don't you? He's missed 10 kicks this year, which is the most he's ever missed in a season.
Yeah, I think you have to go back and look at and film him and the film and look at see why he's, because they are in the head when they get the shanks, so to speak, they become different people. You can't even talk to them. It's like they're drooling. You can't even start. They get so nervous. I don't know what it is. But you go back and look at it, and most of the time it's something very simple, and it's a question of just overcorrecting. And I think sometimes they do that. Guys that are coaching overcorrect what they're doing and instead of settle them down. I think for the most part, you just got to settle him down, let him get his confidence back.
Yeah, and in the case, maybe this is oversimplifying, but Tucker's been doing this for 13 years. Maybe, Father Time's undefeated. No, you don't think so?
It's just something very simple. It's just something very simple, I think. And, don't beat it to death. Find out what it is and just let him work his way back in. And he'll kick for another 13 years,
Well, George Blanda, wasn't he almost 50? And he was a kicker late in his career, the old quarterback. Where some of our younger listeners, Mike, are probably like, what? George Blanda, who the hell are they talking about?
He probably could have played till he's 70 if he had stopped smoking too,
Oh, reminds me of one of my favorite Hannafin and Bud Carson stories in training camp. They're just sitting there passing a cigarette on the sidelines during camp, like a couple of teenagers. Mike, you remember all that, right?
Oh yeah, I went to camp with the Chargers to see, to watch them practice when I was coaching Arizona State in the '80s, and Ernie Zampese, all 5'6" of him or 5'7" of him. He walks in the huddle, call a play. saw the smoke coming out from inside the huddle. Out he walks with a cigarette, and they break and go to the line of scrimmage. So
Oh my
he's
God!
supposed
Yeah.
to dear practice. The quarterback's giving him one of these deals, poor Fouch,
Mike Martz playing hurt today, fighting through a cold. Now the Sunday night game, we've had a couple of snow globe games, with snow, blizzard conditions, and this was one of them. The Bills, oh my gosh, did they destroy the 49ers? The game started out pretty evenly, Mike. For once, we talked last week about McCaffrey didn't seem right. Well, he looked good. He had 8 carries for 53 yards. It looked like the old McCaffrey, and then he goes down on a non-contact play. He's just making a cut and he goes down. And if ever there was a play that was a microcosm of the Niners season, Mike, it's just not meant to be for the Niners this year, is it?
No, it isn't. And, you're not long enough you go through that. You have those years where you get 12 injured, maybe 7, 8 of them are starters, and you just got to kind of persevere and keep them playing. That's the biggest deal. Nobody will blame you for that as long as you guys continue to compete and at a high level, and they can't throw it in. They just can't give it the old well. And you see teams do that. And I don't believe Mike Shanahan will ever, or Mike Shanahan. I don't believe Shanahan will ever let that happen. But it happens a lot throughout the league when teams get injured like that. It's hard to hold on to them, and they lose hope so easily.
Yeah. Kyle Shanahan, of course, and it reminds me a little bit of your 2002 season when you had 5. You had 5. Went through 5 starting quarterbacks and a lot of injuries. Now you guys start out. Speaking of keeping the team in it, you started out 0-5, and then you rallied to 5-5, and all of a sudden you're back in the playoff picture. Well, then I think Bulger got hurt, and then Warner got hurt, and you ended up ending the season with Scott Covington at quarterback on a
Jamie Martin got hurt. Jamie, once Bulger got hurt, Jamie was good enough, and he came in. Then he got hurt.
Right. Yeah.
The real reason we won that last game is because Jamie said he had that bad knee, and he couldn't stand anymore. He said, "Coach, just put me in the shotgun or something. I can't watch this." So he goes in, and I think the quarterback had been in there. What was Scott Covington was 0 for 15, I think.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy goes in the fourth quarter, the second half, and I think in the last 6 or 7 minutes he throws 3 touchdowns, and we win the doggone thing.
Yeah, it was a big time rally. Now the weird play again, just a fascinating weekend. Going back to the Bills 49ers was that Josh Allen touchdown where they're down in the red zone. He throws a pass to Amari Cooper. Cooper's about to go down, but he turns and he sees Allen not too far away. Allen was just kind of trailing the play, tosses it to him, and Allen runs it in for the end zone. Mike, he's just the 7th player in the Super Bowl era to score a touchdown, passing, running, and receiving. I don't understand why, but that went into the books as a receiving touchdown. Crazy play, though, huh?
It was, and it's the thing I love about him is why was he there to begin with, right? He's chasing the play.
Yeah, he was probably going downfield seeing if he could block somebody.
He's got so much energy, and I think his energy and it's like Torrey Holt was for us. He's that heart that drives the engine. His enthusiasm, he's just like he's 12 years old. Every time I watch him play, I get such a kick out of him.
Yeah. So it was a good week for Josh. He makes that highlight reel play. If he wins the MVP, and I'd say it's him or Barkley. I'm sure they'll show that play a lot. He also proposed to singer-actress. I'm not familiar with any of her work, Mike. Maybe you are. Haley Steinfeld. So have you ever seen any of her songs? You got any of them on your CDs at home?
No. Right next to Bing Crosby. No.
Bing Crosby. White Christmas until very recently was like still the most played song, most popular song in history, but something's passed it up. I don't know.
It's a great one. I still got it.
Yeah. I've been waiting for that movie to come on TV. I haven't seen it yet.
It's been on. Yeah,
it's been on the Turner Classic Movies.
I clicked onto it 2 nights ago. Yeah.
Next time you do that, shoot me a text so I can watch. Hey, White Christmas is on.
You can search it too and get it, Jim.
Huh?
You can search for it and
I know I've been searching, but anyway, A fascinating Monday night football game. Broncos 41, Browns 32. Bo Nix, you've been on him from the start. Now, he made some rookie mistakes. He had a couple of picks. I think one might have been a tip ball, but he made some big throws. What do you think of doesn't he have a good combination of arm strength and accuracy? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think he's got it all. He's the whole package kind of a deal. And besides the fact that for 4 years in college, he just threw the heck out of the ball and did it very well. So he's gleaning on that experience. And Sean Payton, if I'm a quarterback coming to the league, he's the guy I want to be with. One of those, like O'Connell or
quarterback whisperers.
Yeah, I mean,
you were a quarterback whisperer.
He's absolutely the right guy for him to be with. So I called Sean when he drafted him. I said, you couldn't have picked a better guy. And he's excited about it. And I actually talked to him after the game too. Told him congratulations, but I think he does, Jim, to answer your question. He's got that great accuracy, number one. He sees things quickly, so the key and diagnose stuff is really quick for him. He doesn't get rattled. He's got plenty of arm strength. And the thing that's surprising about him is his ability to run the football so well. He can scramble and make plays with his legs.
Yeah. So we've talked about this before on and off the podcast. You look at a quarterback like Anthony Richardson, a world of talent in Indy, but only 10 college starts. Bo Nix had 61. He was in college forever. I think maybe he got an extra year with he got the COVID year.
Right.
61 starts. That helps a lot.
It helps. Yeah, it's overwhelming. Plus, not just 60 starts, but throwing the football.
Right.
Like Oregon, throw the hell out of football, right? So
right.
And Richardson, and when they draft him, he'll be fine, but the owner demand they play him, which is unfortunate because if he could sit like Love did and some of those quarterbacks at Green Bay,
even Rodgers sat behind
for 3 years. If he could sit for 2-3 years, even just a year, it's going to help him, And now it's really hard for him because there's some habits that you pick up, survival habits. You never really learn the game on an intimate level like you're supposed to. The discipline of it, because a young guy like that's got to have a vet in front of him that is studying and preparing, that really gives him an idea of how this thing's supposed to be done.
Yeah, that was it. Oh, go ahead, Mike. Sorry.
He didn't quite get that opportunity to do that.
No. This was a huge game for the Broncos. Now, they're in a bye this week, but to go to 8-5, and it was a return of Jerry Jeudy, his first game in Denver since the offseason trade, sent him over to Cleveland. 9 catches, 235 yards, an NFL record receiving yardage for a player against his former team. The quote of the year may have come from Troy Aikman. He was talking about Jameis Winston. He said, watching Winston play, it's an amusement park ride. There are thrills and spills. Winston made some fabulous throws, Mike, fabulous throws. He threw for 497 yards. He also threw 3 picks, including not 1, but 2 pick sixes.
Well, 2 of those picks, he just missed them.
Yeah.
And his throwing to the left, he's got a problem. He doesn't get his hips opened up enough.
Throwing to his left?
Yeah, and so you underthrow. If you don't, when you throw to the left, when you throw a football to a receiver going this way, you have to be opened up ahead. Otherwise, you're going to block yourself off and not finish through the throw. You're going to underthrow it. He wasn't opening up. You got to open up. That ball was at least 3 yards behind the receiver. I don't know.
Oh, the out pattern, the little sideline pattern. Yeah, that was well behind him.
Yeah, it was just a horrible, horrible, horrible throw that should never happen. I mean, he's an NFL quarterback. You make that throw, but he got blocked off on that thing, and he just missed it. Just missed it. And I do believe that's something that's always been with him. Every now and then a wheel will come off the wagon and frustrate you.
Well, he said those years with Sean Payton in New Orleans that he kind of worked some of the interceptions out of him, but there's still some left in him,
Well, for him, it's not so much making bad decision, and that used to be part of it. For him, it's just missing throws that he just.
Yeah.
I don't know whether he loses focus or takes. You got to be, when you make those throws, when you're making a throw to your left, you have to be conscious of, hey, listen, I got to get open on this thing. I got to get my hips out of the way. You got to do that.
Yeah. So, Jameis Winston, feast or famine. Just one last thing I want to say about the week that was, that Seahawks game. another crazy play. Seahawks beat the Jets 26-21. A Farmer Jet defensive end, Leonard Williams, a 92-yard pick six. What did John Madden say? I love to, what did he say? Something like, I love to watch a fat man or a big man score. That big fella, Williams, 6'5", 310, rumbled 92 yards down the field. And they keep stats on everything, Michael. According to ESPN, it's the longest pick six return by a D lineman in NFL history.
No, that's not true.
92 yards for a D lineman.
I'm trying to think of Grant Wistrom had a couple of those.
Really?
Well, he might. Well, I know I'm sorry. And you're right. Norris, he scooped up a ball from the 2-yard line and ran 98 with it. So that's right. That was a fumble recovery.
Okay. Yeah. No, this was a pick six.
Yeah, you're right. I guess that's probably right then. Yeah.
But it is kind of fun watching the big fellas rumble, right?
Like yeah, it is. What's even more fun is to watch the guys trying to catch him. The offensive lineman trying to catch him.
Yeah.
You can hear that thing on those big trucks when they back up. Beep, 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 beep.
Yeah. I'm familiar with the sound. Yeah. Hey, we're having fun here. We're going to be right back on Talking Football with Ask Mike after these messages.
Let me get this straight. Gray Bar is a distributor?
Yep. For more than 150 years, we supported electrical and datacom projects all over the country.
So you can get me products wherever and whenever I need them?
Yep. Thanks to our expansive national logistics network.
For any industry?
Yep. From construction sites and industrial plants to schools, hospitals, and just about everything in between.
So you could say Gray Bar is much more than a distributor?
Yep, you could say that.
They really do it all.
Yep. When you need a hand powering, connecting, or maintaining your operations, join the thousands of professionals who rely on Gray Bar to help keep them up and running. Yep, Gray Bar does that.
We are back on Talking Football. You can watch us on YouTube. You can listen to us everywhere, I think. Spotify, all the places. Or just call up Claibs Online. We've loved our association with Mike Claiborne, who was a great guest last week, along with future daughter-in-law Marissa from DC, who asked Mike live, which was like a Talking Football Ask Mike record, and of course Joe Roderick doing a great job, also working with the Claibs Online. Mike, I had a huge lead. I kind of quit talking about it because I felt kind of bad. I had a huge lead on the picks, but now 3 weeks in a row, you're catching up. You're making a late season run. I was 8-2 last week, feeling really good about myself. Mike, you were perfect. You were 10-0. 10-0. I missed picked the Ravens, picked the Eagles, and I picked the Bengals, and you picked the Steelers. Mike, if you would have told me, how many points did the Bengals score in that game? What did they have, like 34 points or something? What the hell was that? Let me see here. My notes. Anyway, if you would have told me that they would score that many points, as fate would have it, they scored 38. The Bengals scored 38 against Pittsburgh defense, I would have said, I got this game. But boy, Russell Wilson, 414 yards passing, huh?
Well, likewise, I mean, if you told me that Steelers would have scored that many points, we thought when they scored those kind of points, they're not a scoring team. They just play great defense and don't muck it up,
Boy, the Bengals have a defense. You have to wonder, usually something like that happens, heads roll, right? So you wonder about the D coordinator and some of the defensive staff members.
It looked like they had cardboard cutouts there in a couple of those plays. There's just nothing happening.
Anyway, Mike went 10-0. He's catching up with me for the season. We haven't given the season. Mike is 74-37. That's 2 out of 3 games. I'm at 79-32. So I'm down to a 5-game lead. I was in double digits the last few weeks. Now these are from ESPN's betting lines, and this is straight up. Against the spread, we wouldn't be doing too good, but we're having a pretty good year. Mike, some injuries. Taysom Hill out for the year with the Saints with a knee injury. The Saints probably not going anywhere anyway. Giants lost a good DT. Their season's been a disaster. Dexter Lawrence on IR. Trevor Lawrence on IR. I want to ask you about that hit now. Concussion, and he's had a lingering left shoulder, like an AC joint thing. Aziz Al-Shire got a 3-game suspension for that hit on a sliding Trevor Lawrence. What do you think? What you see there?
Well, I've been listening to a lot of analysis and talking to actually one of the officials, and it's a close one. He went to hit him. He didn't know for sure at the last baloney. He went after him from the get-go and should have been thrown out. I think it should be a 6-game suspension, and there's got to be a message sent. I mean, you can end a guy's career doing that. You could injure him seriously, and it's just uncalled for in this game. It's hard enough. There's plenty of injuries instead of trying to actually injure somebody, which is, to me, what he did. It's very deliberate to me.
Yeah, he led with the elbow.
Threw him out of the game. They said, well, it wasn't really. Well, then if it wasn't deliberate, they wouldn't have thrown him out of the game. Right.
And led with the elbow. And he's got a history. He's got a history. So I think you have to factor all that in. Hey, we've got a Mike Martz tight end of the week, Joe. I don't know if you're ready, but we do have a Mike Martz tight end of the week. It's Sam Laporta. There you go. There's Mad Mike. And sideburns in all his glory. Laporta, 2 touchdown catches for the Lions. He didn't have a lot of yardage. He hasn't had a great year statistically. He's been banged up, but he's our Mike Martz tight end of the week. I want to also another St. Louis area player, Laporta from Highland, Illinois, just across the river. Kyren Williams is a Walter Payton Award finalist for the LA Rams. It still pains me to say LA Rams. Anyway, Williams, Vianney High School. That's quite an honor. You've had several players nominated. I think one year, London Fletcher, it was after he left the Rams, but I think he was a finalist. I think he made the final 3. And the Payton Award, if you're not familiar, very prestigious award. It combines on-the-field excellence with off-the-field, I guess you'd call it philanthropy, just community work. So a good deal there. Let's go to our Ask Mike questions. We got a couple this week. This is a repeat call. This is Huey from Dogtown, from the Dogtown neighborhood in St. Louis. This is the last week of buys, so we're in week 14. It's the first week of December, and Huey from Dogtown wants to know, Mike, do you like taking the buy so late in the season, and is there maybe a best time of the year to have a buy, to take a buy?
Well, first of all, this is at this time of the year, there isn't anybody that's starting for you that's not banged up. Everybody's banged up. The offensive line, everybody's banged up, and to get a week at this point, particularly if you're in it, is a good respite. And it depends on how you deal with it, as a coach too. But I always felt, and we got plenty of buys around that 7-week, 6-week, 8-week stretch where we're going pretty good, and you take a bye, and you lick your wounds a little bit. It's so needed, particularly with this game. The season's so much longer now. The bye can just take so much, and to have a week where they can recover is really meaningful. If we practice, it was very short, and it was like on a Thursday, Friday at the end of the week for maybe an hour in shorts. But normally I'd give them the week off, tell them that they had to work out 3 days at the facility during the week, so they didn't just go to the Bahamas or something, and just let them get away and just kind of, they're not going to be out of shape in a week. They just got to mend a little bit, and it was always effective for us that way.
And it can help a little bit, having a week off. I mean, it's not, if you have a serious injury, it's not going to help, but just some of those bumps and bruises, it can help.
Well, yeah, they're all beat up. At this time, every one's beat up. But the other thing, too, is the coaches are wore out. At least we used to. We didn't have 35 coaches then. We had 11, so we were doing it all. And you're exhausted. And just to be able to go home a little bit earlier, a couple of nights is a big deal. You catch up on some of your sleep.
35 coaches. You remind me, watching college basketball, you ever know, there's like 8 guys in suits. It's a 12-man roster.
That's
What
money
are
does.
these guys all doing? Is it like one-on-one instruction or what? I don't
That's
know.
what money does. Seriously though, there's 25 to 30 coaches on these staffs. We had 11.
Yeah.
And it was more than enough. But why they need all these guys, who knows?
Okay, we got one more for you, Michael. This is Joe from Belleville. This was watching the Georgia Tech game, which we were talking about before we went live here. That was that 8 overtime game, and the announcer said the coaches were saying they have only so many plays for 2-point conversions, and you know how it is in college. You have to at the second overtime. If you score a touchdown, you have to do a 2-point conversion, and then after that, every overtime is just a 2-point conversion. So his question is, how many 2-point conversion plays did you have in your sack of plays there going into a game?
I usually carried about 4 to 6. And because I use the 2-point conversion plays also on a 3rd and 1 at times, or a 3rd and 3 or a 3rd and 2 down there.
Even in the middle of the field or something?
Yeah, because you practice them, you like them. So you get into that situation. You have some 3rd and 3s on your list, but I learned after my second year in those specific situations, you always pad it because you think it's never going to happen. Then, of course, it does. Those kinds of things happen to me too many times. Remember, we lost our kicker against Atlanta. So we had to go for 2, 4, or 5 times. And, fortunately, I carried those plays, and practice them. So, and a lot of that stuff you can roll over to the next week because nobody's real different in that situation. So, we carried probably about 6. At least I did.
Yeah. It seems to me that it's hard, man, maybe I'm wrong. It's harder. It's so condensed down there. It seems harder to pass, to find open guys. So many times on these 2-point conversions, you'll see the quarterback rolling to his right, which right away you're eliminating like half the field as a potential strike area or target zone. And there's like nothing there.
Well, some of the best ones are play action too, because those linebackers can't. I mean, they got hit whatever you show in terms of a run. And we had some great ones there. But usually we had a lot if we're going to throw, there are a lot of crossing routes, and confuse them and stretch them because they aren't going to back up. And, there's just so many things you guys do in the red zone. They're not real creative defensively down there because you can't be. So once you figure out their philosophy, you can roll over stuff you haven't used yet.
Yeah. That's Mike Martz. That's Talking Football. We've gotten some great questions this year. So you can, every week, you can just reply to me on Twitter. I'm also on Blue Sky now, so you can reply on Blue Sky. And also, or you can just email me, jtom72@outlook.com. We'll be right back, and we'll talk about a big week 14 of games coming up.
Nobody wants a surprise in their jelly donut. That's because the middle is the most important part. At Graybar, we're at the middle of electrical and datacom jobs across the country, connecting installers, facility managers, and business owners with smart solutions for their most challenging projects, which means stocking and delivering crucial products on time and on budget, with no surprises, thanks to our nationwide logistics network. Yep, Graybar does that.
Who does this?
We got watching that ad, Mike, we got a donut store open just a block away from us. It's been bad on my waistline. I've made a few trips up there on Saturday morning. Get the jelly donuts, the Long Johns, chocolate Long Johns. You got a favorite donut or no?
Yeah, my mother used to bake these cinnamon buns, and I've never had anything like it since I was a kid. Julie's got the recipe, and we always had it on Easter and Christmas. She wouldn't make it other than that time, and you could smell when she was making them. And that time we used to beg her to make it during the year. She said, nope, that's a Christmas and Easter deal. And Julie makes up for me now, so that's pretty.
Does Julie do a pretty good job on them? Yeah.
Hey, look at me.
Wait a minute. No, I thought that was from you were telling me about all the Halloween candy you got rid of in 2 days. The leftover.
Right. No, she's very, very good.
Well, Thanksgiving goes by, Mike, and it's the stretch run. It truly is a stretch run. It's a little bit different because the season lasts a week longer, but This is really it's been an exciting season and really the most exciting time. The Patriots, Raiders, and Giants are out. They've already been eliminated. See you next year. The Bills and Chiefs are in. And we could have some teams get in. I think Detroit, if they win, they're in their game, and we'll talk about that in a minute. A massively important Thursday night game against the Packers. They can also get in if they lose with some help. The Vikings can get in with a win and some help. And there's a third team that could clinch. Well, I'll find it here in my notes somewhere. Mike, I got so many notes here. But anyway, it's starting to take shape. But we have buys this week. This is our last week of buys. 6 teams are off. Broncos are off. Colts are off. Patriots are off. Ravens, Texans, Commanders. So only 13 games this week. We've got some red hot teams. The Lions lead the list. They've won 10 in a row. The Eagles 8 in a row. The Bills 7 in a row, and then the Vikings 5 in a row. Mike, who's the best team in the league right now?
Oh man, with all those injuries in Detroit, I would have said Detroit. I'd like to think they are. It's either them or Buffalo, I think.
Yeah. That'd be a pretty good Super Bowl, wouldn't it?
Buffalo
and Detroit. And something different, too. Detroit, I don't think – no, they've never been in a Super Bowl.
No, they've never been there.
So tonight, Thursday night football, Packers 9-3 at Detroit, 11-1. Packers have won 3 in a row. They're 4-1 away from home, so the road doesn't seem to bother them. NFC North matchup. They played just a month ago. I don't know if you remember that game, listeners and viewers. The Lions won 24-14 in Green Bay on November 3rd. It was the Lions' first outdoor game of the season. It was a rainy, chilly, windy day. Didn't bother the Lions at all. I remember people used to say the greatest show. Oh, they're an indoor team. But if you have talent and skill, it plays anywhere, doesn't it, Mike?
It does, and we were undefeated on the road, so it kind of shoots holes in that theory.
Yeah.
One, we didn't lose the game on the road, and most of them were outside. So, yeah, no, I don't, I think that's what Detroit is. I think they're just such a solid team. I think they win this thing, but it'll be hard for them with the losses on defense. And really, you look at Green Bay, they're trending up again. They're just getting better every week, but I still think Detroit's going to be a tough place for them to come in and win. The one thing they haven't done, they haven't lost a step on offense. I'm talking about Detroit.
Yeah.
And I think, will they have the two-headed snake again, or Montgomery's back now, or?
I think they're both. Montgomery's back. They're both back. Now they'll miss Taylor Decker, who's a hell of an offensive lineman. He's out with a knee injury, but and it doesn't always work this way. Ask San Francisco. They've had so many injuries. Mike, they have now, and some of these are just bit players or fringe players. 13 players on IR on the Detroit defense alone, including, a couple of really good players, linebacker who I know you like, Alex Anzalone, and of course, Aiden Hutchinson, one of the top pass rushers in the league. No other team in the league has more than 7 defensive players on IR. So somehow they're doing it. I think it's a testament to the coaching staff and also our friend Brad Holmes, the GM and former St. Louis Rams PR intern. But they seem to do it despite the injuries.
Well, they lost another linebacker here this last weweek too. So yeah, the one thing that's helped them on defense is they're playing so much better at corner. It's really helped them.
Yeah.
So that really emotionally, you're taking away some of the big throws against them that people could get because of the inability of the corners, and you can pressure now because you're confident your corners will hold up. And that's a big deal.
Yeah. Okay, Falcons at the Vikings. The Falcons are listing, man. They're listing. They're taking on water. They've lost 3 in a row. They're 6-6. They're tied with Tampa, but currently have the tiebreaker over them. At the Vikings, Vikings are 4.5-point favorites. By the way, the Lions are a 3.5-point favorite in Green Bay. Anyway, 4.5. The Vikings 10-2, won 5 in a row. Kirk Cousins, 4 interceptions last week, all of a sudden there's some talk. Is it time to get Michael Penix Jr. out there? What do you think, Mike?
It was really weird because he's played so well. The first half of the season, he was lights out. I watched him. Somebody said, watch him and see what's wrong with him. See if there's anything. He made some throws that I can't imagine he tried to make.
Yeah.
He's just dumb throws.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. He's too good of a player and played too long at such a high level to do stuff like that. I for the life of me, I can't figure out why he made some of those throws. Nobody tries to jam it in it like he did. You know, when the end zone, you don't try to make that throw, you know, those kinds of things. So, you know, he's got to do something to come out of it. Otherwise, they need to replace him because he's killing them right now.
Yeah. Yeah. It's his return to Minnesota. Spent 6 seasons there. A lot of times the players play very well. When they return, they're extra motivated. Ask Jerry Jeudy. He had that career game playing against the Broncos. The Vikings have been nipping at the heels of Detroit all year long. But, Mike, they've got a tough road to hoe now. 3 of their final 5 games are against either current division leaders, and they have a 4th one against the 9-3 Packers. So they've got some work to do.
Well, I mean, if you belong, though, that's what you do. You know, so you start those guys that bitch about it. You got this team to play, that team to play. Well, you're going to play them then or later. What difference does it make? Go beat them. You know.
Do you like the Vikings in this one?
Yes, Vikings.
Okay.
I think the Vikings might have a career day against these guys because defensively, I don't think Atlanta's any good.
Well, they've had problems lately. They've been a lot better, but over the course of the season, they've had trouble rushing the passer, and that's probably not a good thing against Sam Darnold and those receivers. Darnold has held up pretty well. I mean, he's had a couple of bumps in the road. He's held up pretty well this season, don't you think?
Yeah, he had that game where he threw some picks and whatnot, but he's resilient. You know, that's what I like about him. He's a good player.
Okay, we've got Panthers at the Eagles. Panthers are only 3-9. The Eagles 10-2. As we mentioned, they've won 8 in a row. The Eagles 12.5-point favorites. Mike, I include this game asking you for your thoughts and pick because the Panthers are a different team lately. They won 2 in a row. Now they've lost their last 2, but they've been on walk-off field goals. They lost in overtime last week, and then the Chiefs beat them on a last-second field goal. Bryce Young, suddenly the light switch is off after sitting out a few games.
Yeah, this is an upset waiting to happen. They're good enough to beat them. I think it'll be a very close game. They really do. I think Eagles win it because they have a hard time containing the running game. But I tell you what, this is going to be a barn burner. They're not going to play like a 3-9 team or wherever they are. I can promise you. They look really good coming down the stretch the last 5 or 6 games to me. And that, like you said, Bryce has now become the quarterback that they hoped he'd be.
Yeah, and they have Adam Thielen back, you know, really good wide receiver, the former Viking, so that helps to have him there. The Eagles with a win, that was the other team I was looking for when I couldn't. With a win and some help, they're in the playoffs. You know, we talk about their offense, and they could have Devontae Smith back. He's began the week practicing after missing 2 games with a hamstring. But their defense is – maybe we should talk a little more about their defense. Jalen Carter, as the defensive tackle, has really emerged. I think it's just his 2nd year in the league. He's playing lights out for them.
He's a home wrecker. You know, he does so much damage, and if he's not making the play, he's causing the play to go bad. You know, he's either in the face or he's pushing the bubble and the runner around a pile with somebody else. He's one of the most disruptive guys in the league right now. And their offensive line now is gelled and starting to play really well too on the other side of the ball. They don't resemble the line they were early in the season. They've really in form like they were last year, talking about the Eagles. So yeah, I think they're really tough to beat, but there's something going on down there now with Carolina. I just think that this is going to be very, very difficult.
I agree with you. Maybe the difference might be Carolina's run defense has struggled. I think they gave up 250 yards rushing to the Bucs, who aren't Buccaneers, who isn't known as a rushing team. So Saquon Barkley could, what the players do, they could feast. He could feast in this game.
Yeah, yeah, good.
So we're both going with the Eagles. Browns and Steelers, another have and have not game, but hey, not so fast, as Lee Corso would say. 2 weeks ago, the Browns upset the Steelers, ending what was a 5-game winning streak. These division rivals, this is the AFC North, kind of known as the Rust Division. And the Browns, Stefanski, I like him as a coach. They've had a lot go wrong this year, a quarterback disaster with Deshaun Watson. But I think they'll come to play against the Steelers. Steelers are 6.5-point favorites, Mike.
Yeah, and I still think that Mike Tomlin and the way Russell Wilson's playing, I still think I'd pick the Steelers on this one.
Yeah, I'll go Steelers too. The Steelers, we all know how much you admire Tomlin. The win last week, they go 9-3, so it clinches a winning record. The worst they could finish in the 17-game schedule is 9-8. Mike, it's their 21st consecutive winning season, which ties an NFL record. Tomlin has been there for 18 of them. You know, he's been around for a while. That's an amazing consistency, isn't it?
It is, and people don't realize how hard that really is.
Yeah.
That's a different cast of characters all the time, and changing coaches, and to keep that consistency and win like he has is pretty remarkable.
And that, they've had some bumps once Roethlisberger left, but Russell Wilson seems to be pretty good. He's been revived, a pretty good replacement. Okay, we got Seahawks at Cardinals. This is a late game on CBS. NFC West matchup. We've got a lot of these division matchups, and we're running into a lot of second matchups of the season. Just 2 weeks ago, the Seahawks beat the Cardinals 16-6, low-scoring game. Kobe Bryant in that one had a 69-yard pick that was big for the Seahawks. And Leonard Williams, he of the 92-yard pick six, the 310-pound lineman, he had 2.5 sacks of Kyler Murray. The Seahawks have won 6 straight against the Cardinals. Seahawks 7-5. They're 4-1 away from home. The Cardinals struggling a little bit now. They've lost 2 in a row. They're 6-6. How do you view this one, Michael?
I think the Seahawks put a dagger in them. I think the Seahawks are win the last couple of games. I just think the Seahawks are, and the quarterback's playing such a great level. They win this thing.
I'm tempted to go Cardinals, but I'm gonna go Seahawks on this one too. You've talked about the Cardinals. They're kind of sink or swim with Kyler Murray. I know their defense has played better, but he really needs a little more help.
Yeah, and I just think they're not going to slow Seattle's passing game down a whole lot. And Seattle's pretty darn good on defense as well, so we'll see.
Okay, another late game. This is a Fox game. Bills at Rams. Bills are 4.5-point favorites, 10-2, won 7 in a row. The Rams are 6-6, but they've just been treading water lately, Mike. Their last 4 games, loss, win, loss, win. That's their last 4 games. And obviously they're still very much in the hunt in the NFC West, where only 2 games separate first place from last place. But after this game, 3 of the Rams' final 4 games are against NFC West foes, so it's all about the division. The Bills are cooking. James Cook had a great game on the ground. I think he had 100 yards rushing before halftime in that game against the 49ers. And here he's back, and it was really lost in the shuffle of the blowout and the snowstorm. Linebacker Matt Milano, who I know you love, he's back. He returned against the 49ers. He had a torn triceps at the start of training camp. Some people didn't think he'd be back all season, but he's back in the lineup. He's a big key for that defense, isn't he?
He's the heart and soul of that defense. When he's there, they're totally different. He's such a good player, but I think who he is affects everybody when he steps into the huddle. This is such a big shot in the arm to that football team. Yeah, Buffalo, I think, takes this one pretty good.
Yeah. And the Rams, I'm going with Buffalo too. The Rams, it doesn't seem like they have much of a home field advantage. A lot of time, there's a lot of opposing fans there. The Bills fans travel well, so I'm sure we'll see a lot of the Bills Mafia, as we call it. Okay, just 3 more games we want to run down here. Another late game: Bears 4-8 at 49ers 5-7. 3.5-point favorites are the 49ers. Bears will have Thomas Brown as the interim head coach. After this game, San Francisco has the Rams, Dolphins, Lions, and Cardinals. So not the toughest schedule, but not the easiest schedule. No McCaffrey, no Jordan Mason. He's out for the season, who did a pretty good job replacing McCaffrey at running back. Isaac Morendo will be the starter, and I'm sure we'll hear Patrick Taylor's name called. He was brought up from the practice squad. Are you ready to say lights out for the 49ers, Mike?
No, I think they're too well coached. I just wish they were a little bit I think they've underachieved a little bit on defense, but I think they win this thing.
So you're going with the 49ers. Okay, fine. Our first different. I'm going to go with the Bears simply because they're playing pretty well with Thomas Brown and Caleb Williams. So we'll see on this one. Sunday night game, AFC West matchup: Chargers 8-4, Chiefs 11-1. Chiefs are 4-point favorites. Our odds, according to ESPN. They played very early in the season. This is another rematch. That Chargers lost to the Chiefs 17-10 way back in Game 4. In that game, Kansas City fell behind 10-0, and it was another late season rally to pull one out. This was a game, Mike, where Rashee Rice suffered a season-ending knee injury. Remember, they were chasing down an interception return, and Mahomes ran into him. And their receiving game has suffered, hadn't it? Without Rice, he was really developing.
Yeah, they lack firepower on offense, that's for sure, with the lack of receivers. I'm gonna pick the Chargers here. I think they're really, really good on defense. They're really conservative offense, but I think they'll let the offense play a little bit. I think they'll let Herbert throw it around a little bit too. I'm picking the Chargers. Now,
Lad McConkey, who's had a great year, he's been limited. He's kind of questionable for this game with a knee and shoulder. We'll see if he returns. I'm going to go Chiefs in this game. I don't know why, but I'm sure it'll be a close game. Okay, Monday Night Football. We have the best offense around with a terrible defense. The Bengals, 4-8 against the Cowboys, 5-7. The Cowboys only 1-5 at home, Mike, but they did finally win their first home game last week. Dallas has won their last two, Commanders and the Giants. And after this one, they have the Panthers, the Bucks, the Eagles, and the Commanders. Are the Cowboys still in the wild card race? What do you think? Or are they done?
Whether they are or not, they won't go very far if they did make it. I think they win this game. That's how bad that defense is for Cincinnati. But I think they are a different team over the last few weeks. There's an intensity, there's an attitude readjustment for whatever reason. They're playing much, much better than they were earlier. So I think they win this game.
And, they've had Micah Parsons back for a couple, 3 weeks now. And you kind of think maybe that pass rush might give Joe Burrow some.
Yeah, no question. And I do think offensively they'll do enough to where, when you get backpedal into that defense, probably score a touchdown.
And they finally had a running game last week. Rico Dowdle had over 100 yards. That's their first 100-yard game of rushing game of the season. So maybe that'll help. I'm going to go with the Cowboys too. So just 13 games. That'll do it for us this week. We thank you all for listening. Mike, have a good one. And when's the next cinnamon rolls? Or you got to wait till Christmas?
Wait till Christmas, Jim. Got to be patient. Now, but I did something. I learned how to make them myself.
Stop it! Really?
Oh yeah. So
have you tried it?
Oh yeah.
And they were pretty good.
Not bad. I have to adjust the time on. They're a little bit dry, so I got to adjust the time on them.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm
keep working on it.
Back 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. All right. All right. Hey, we'll see you all next week on Talking Football with Mike Martz and JT.